That's all right if Republicans and Democrats join together to do what is right. If somebody wants to make a motion against me, bring it. There has to be an adult in the room.
I want you to listen to what Hakeem Jeffries said after the.
Oh, Kevin's new boss. Let's hear from him.
Listen.
It was a victory for the American people and a complete and total surrender by right-wing extremists who throughout the year have tried to hijack the Congress.
There you have Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz getting extra salty over the fact that Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy struck a deal with congressional Democrats in order to pass what's known as a stopgap bill or a continuing resolution that will keep the government funded until mid-November. Now, Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy worked with those Democrats. That is why Matt Gaetz is so furious about this, and he is now threatening to do away with his leadership role in the House of Representatives. We're gonna get to that in just a moment, but first let's get to some details about the bill that was signed by President Joe Biden. Now, the measure was approved on a vote of 335 to 91, with 209 Democrats and 126 Republicans voting in favor, and 90 Republicans and 1 Democrat in opposition. Just a quick side note in regard to the 1 Democrat who voted against this, that was Representative Mike Quigley from Illinois, who had a problem with the stopgap measure failing to include any funding for Ukraine. I think it's notable that the defense sector is his 4th top campaign contributor. I'm sure that had nothing to do with the fact that he was so gung-ho in voting against this over the lack of military funding to Ukraine. But let's move on. Then you have the Senate. They also held a vote and they voted in favor of the legislation about 3 hours prior to the deadline. And then the Senate jettisoned its own stopgap measure that contained $6 billion for Ukraine, but then they approved the House version on an 88-9 vote. Now, here's some of the relevant details in regard to what is included in the stopgap bill. A coalition of House Democrats and Republicans voted to pass a plan that would keep money flowing to government agencies and provide billions of dollars for disaster recovery efforts. Republicans who voted against the bill were unhappy about the fact that it left out severe immigration restrictions. How about you guys actually do your jobs and work on a comprehensive immigration reform bill? They can't be bothered by that. Instead, they use government funding bills or lately things like the debt ceiling negotiations in order to include these provisions. Of course, they don't want a standalone bill. They don't want to do their jobs or take any accountability for their failures in actually passing any immigration reform. The bill, though, the stopgap measure did not include money for Ukraine, despite a push by the White House and members of both parties to include that funding. Now, House Democrats supported this anyway in order to avoid a widespread government shutdown. Democrats did not want to be accused of putting the United States aid to Ukraine ahead of keeping the government agencies open and paying 2 million members of the military and 1.5 million federal employees. And look, Ukraine seems to be some sort of sticking point. Congress has approved about $113 billion in military, humanitarian, and economic aid in 4 packages since the invasion by Russia. And Biden has requested another $24 billion. No paid family leave though, so something to keep in mind. On top of that, McCarthy has shown a willingness to work with Democrats, and the extreme wing of the Republican Party is now threatening his leadership role as a result of that. Representative Andy Biggs, for instance, put out a statement saying that instead of siding with his own party, Kevin McCarthy sided with 209 Democrats to push through a continuing resolution that maintains the Biden-Pelosi-Schumer spending levels and policies. He allowed the DC Uniparty to win again. Should he remain Speaker of the House, he asks? And of course, Matt Gaetz, who has used this entire debacle as a way to get as much attention as possible, does not believe that McCarthy should remain Speaker of the House. He says that his leadership role is, quote, on tenuous grounds, and he gets into it a little more in this next clip.
Since the mid-90s, this country has been governed by revolving continuing resolution and omnibus spending bill. And what that means is that America's lawmakers take one up or down vote on the funding of the entire government. That is crazy. That is the reason we're $33 trillion in debt. We want to move to single subject spending bills. So he made that commitment, he broke it. And if at this time, next week, Kevin McCarthy is still Speaker of the House, it will be because the Democrats bailed him out and he can be their speaker, not mine.
So when do you make this move?
You'll be seeing it this week.
This week, okay.
That's why I came on the show this week.
That's why he went on the show this week. He's planning on pursuing this retaliation against McCarthy very soon. Now, how does McCarthy feel about it? Well, he explains in the next clip.
I want to start, though, on the news this morning from Congressman Matt Gaetz, who says he's going to seek a motion to vacate. He's going to try to oust you as Speaker of the House.
That's nothing new. He's tried to do that from the moment I ran for office. Look.
Well, this time he says he's going to keep going. May not get there before the 15th ballot, but it took 15 for Kevin McCarthy. He says he's coming for you. Can you survive?
Yes, I'll survive. You know, this is personal with Matt. Matt voted against the most conservative ability to protect our border, secure our border. He's more interested in securing TV interviews than doing something. He wanted to push us into a shutdown, even threatening his own district with all the military people there who would not be paid, only because he wants to take this motion. So be it, bring it on, let's get over with it, and let's start governing. If he's upset because he tried to push us in a shutdown and I made sure government didn't shut down, then let's have that fight.
So Cenk, McCarthy clearly sees himself as the adult in the room and was willing to do what the Republican Party, of course, doesn't really like him doing, which is negotiating with the Democrats. What do you think about this? Do you think that this is going to hurt him politically, especially when it comes to re-election?
Yeah, so let me take it one at a time. As usual, we're gonna give you a nuanced and honest answers to all these questions. So first off, in the beginning, there was many demands that the extreme right wing had in these government shutdown, including absurd things like defund the entire Department of Justice so that they could shut down Trump's cases. Yeah, that was never gonna happen. There's no chance in hell that that would happen. It's insane and absurd that they asked for that. And then there was the standard ask, hey, we don't want to fund Ukraine. We want to give an extreme amount of money to border security. God knows where that goes, and disaster relief. Okay, and then so what happened with those? So disaster relief, both sides agreed to anyway. So that was neutral. The Democrats wanted extra funding for Ukraine, but that was a Democratic request. They didn't get it. The Republicans wanted all those different demands about border security, and they didn't get that yet. So it comes out as kind of neutral at this point. Now, I do want to be fair, even though obviously not a big fan of Matt Gaetz, but his request for single subject bills is not an unreasonable one. And it looks like he's finally figured out that he should stop asking for the moon and the sky and the Jewish space lasers or whatever else that he imagined that he could get in these absurd requests, and just focus on the one thing that makes sense. I've seen him say that now more clearly and focus on that one. And look, that's for him to take to his caucus and figure out if that's how they want to deal with it, et cetera. But this idea that somehow the Democrats won and McCarthy is now beholden to them and working with them, what did the Democrats do? They literally got absolutely nothing out of this. So I mean, other than like anytime the Republicans don't get something absurd that they asked for, they say, well, look at that, the Democrats won again. No, the Democrats didn't win a single thing from this. And in fact, more Democrats voted for this than Republicans. And if I was the Democrats, and I literally had this conversation with the Representative Ro Khanna on Friday when I was in Washington, D.C., and not only me, but he said, Representative Khanna said, yes, the Democrats should ask for something in return, like perhaps a vote on paid family leave. You don't have to guarantee that it's gonna pass, but a very, very simple and doable request of a vote on paid family leave in the House. But as usual, the Democrats asked for nothing and got nothing.
Yeah, I mean, like they didn't want to suffer the same fate that McCarthy was also trying to avoid, which was taking the blame for a government shutdown. So, I mean, I don't know, look, I don't know what to say. It's a stopgap measure. They have about a month and a half, or a little less than a month and a half, to negotiate what a lengthier government funding bill would look like. Is there a possibility that the Democrats are going to fight aggressively to include provisions that help ordinary Americans? Probably not. So we should know what we have in Congress. We should know what the consequences are of having lacking an organized outside pressure campaign, so the Democratic Party actually feels forced to listen to their constituents as opposed to getting along with their colleagues. It is what it is. This is the system that we have in place right now. This is the lack of power that the progressive left is enjoying as a result of their fragmenting and constant infighting. It is what it is. If we don't have an actual plan to apply pressure persistently and effectively, this is what we're gonna get.
Yeah, and guys, look, honestly, that's why I started Operation Hope. So it's just an effort to collaborate together to create that outside pressure and to come up with good ideas and execute them to do it. In fact, one of the ideas was to interview Ro Khanna and ask him, is it possible? And he told us, yes, it is possible. And so we do get a second shot at this, which is, remember, this is just a stopgap measure for 45 days. In order to pass the actual bill, they still need Democrats, very likely, because likely they don't have enough Republican votes because the Freedom Caucus is voting no on everything, right? So if they need Democratic votes, it is super fair, especially if they're gonna get more Democratic votes than Republican votes, to ask for something in return. And in fact, if they have a vote on Kevin McCarthy's speakership, Kevin McCarthy is almost certainly going to require Democratic votes. If that's the case, and they don't ask for a bare minimum vote on paid family leave or another provision or several provisions, then they're nuts. Then that just shows you bad faith on the part of the Democratic Party leadership. That means they don't actually want any of those things. So let's try to create pressure from the outside. We have some allies on the inside, and see if we can actually get something for the country in all of this madness. Because right now, all we have is theater and soap operas. And oh my God, is it gonna shut down or is it not on the next episode of General Hospital? But right now, no one is doing anything for the American people. So it's not too much to ask for one thing for the American people while they have these nonstop nonsense so-called debates, which are nothing but theater.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.